Hey guys, Katie here with For the Love of Leftovers. Thanks for joining me. It is mid to late April, mid-April, and I've done a few little grocery hauls here and there, just kind of filling in and grabbing things that we need each week. I do plan to do a big shop with me 1 month grocery haul, hopefully this next weekend, so the next video that you see will likely be that. Okay, we're gonna go to Costco. Like I have a list, okay? But shopping for the month really worked well for us. I just need to get better about budgeting and time management in order to make that part of our now new kind of routine. But I want to show you what I got today as a little bit of a grocery haul that I needed to do both for our family, and my beautiful sister-in-law is having a baby soon. She's due in 2 days. So I needed to get some food to make her meals for the next few weeks. So I'm going to show you what I got today. I'll tell you right up front, we spent $300.64 on this grocery haul that I'm about to show you, and there will be prices up on the screen so that you can see how much I paid for each item, just so you can compare to your local grocery store. All right, let's dive in. I'm going to show you what I bought and tell you my plans for it. Okay, I'm going to go right down the grocery receipt, and that seems to be the easiest way for me to do this. So first off is some Dijon mustard. I got this because I'm making a Greek marinated chicken and vegetable sheet pan dinner for ourselves and for my sister-in-law, and it requires that as part of the marinade. That was $1.99. Then I got these roasted diced green chilies. These are really good in pretty much anything that needs a little bit of extra heat. Those were $7.96. Next, we got the Classico Alfredo sauce, and I got that to go in her baked ziti. We plan to make a few pans of that. That was a request. Next on the list was this rice. So I plan to make a green chicken enchilada casserole. So I'm going to use that yellow rice to go in that casserole dish, and that's also what the green chilies are going to be a part of. That was $5.99. Back over here, we have some thyme and some rosemary. Thyme was $5.99. Rosemary was $4.99. And maple extract that I need for some maple cheesecakes that I'm doing for Easter, that was $3.99. The roasted salsa verde that I got, that will be in one of the chicken dishes as well, likely in that casserole that I was just talking about, and that was $5.99. These Mission tortillas are actually for me. I'm going to really try and watch my carbs while not going full keto, so those are going to be for me for lunches for this week, and those were $4.99 each. I have another idea for a kind of Mexican-inspired marinated chicken, and so I did get some chipotles and adobo sauce. These just have a ton of flavor. I meant to get some mango, forgot about that, so we'll have to make some choices later in the week about that. That was $2.99. I needed some ricotta cheese for the baked ziti that we planned to make, and that was $6.98. Then we needed a few of these mozzarella. So one of these are going to go into the baked ziti. The other one I think is going to be just for us for like pizza night, things like that. Those were $15.98 together. Baby needed one more oat milk to get us through the week. That is $5.79. This Chobani creamer that we're giving a try, this zero sugar, that was $5.99, which, as I say it out loud, seems just pretty ridiculous. This Greek yogurt, got that so that I could make some high-protein pancakes for my sister-in-law. I'm thinking sheet pancakes because it's just easy and you can do a bunch all at once. This 2-count of 4 packs of these little roasting pans, $17.98 for each 4-pack. English muffins were the big sale of the day. So these again were buy one, get 2 free. I ended up getting 12, and originally that would have come out to be $63.48, but instead on sale it was $21.16. That is just a huge savings. Good time to bulk up on those types of items. There was a slight sale on ground beef, and so we got two things of 80/20 ground beef, one of them being $13.32 and the other being $11.98. Chicken breast and chicken thighs, same idea. They had a bit of a deal on them, so I did stock up a bit. Plus, we are, going to be using these for making meals for my sister-in-law. And so the chicken breast was $12.63 and $4.34. Chicken thighs were $14.84 and $14.40. Need onions for all the things. So yellow onions, that bag was $2.99. Red onions were 98 cents, $2.51, and 90 cents. So about $4. Had to get a bit more basil for a recipe I'm doing on the blog, and that basil was $3.49. The celery was really for me. That's what I've been eating for breakfast with avocado. It's kind of my new thing. $4.99. Broccoli crowns were $2.92 for the both of them, just over 2 pounds. Got 4 pounds of strawberries, and these things look monstrous. Hopefully they have good flavor and they're not just like watery and blah. But those came out to be $7.94 for the two. Bananas. The bananas came out to be $2.19. I feel like bananas have been going up in price. Makes me a little sad. Squash they have rang up twice here. $5.98 and $8.97. I also had to get more Parmesan cheese for the baked ziti, so that came out to $13.98. These other tortillas that we needed to get, those were $3.99. So again, total all in was $300.64. I also did get some flowers and that is included in the total. These flowers are going to be used on the blog and recipes that I need to make and photograph to put up there so that you can get them for free and print them out and, make your life a little bit easier. So looking at this all, I have planned 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or 8 different recipes just out of all of these ingredients here. Let's see what we can get done and baked up for my sister-in-law. So while my kids are awake and semi-entertained, I am going to get a few things going that I can kind of like set and forget. Not totally forget, but I can get a big pot of water boiling, make a whole bunch of pasta. I can get a Dutch oven going and we'll cook a whole bunch of beef and pork. I'm getting to decide if am I going to do meatballs also, or am I just doing ziti? I guess we'll have to see. I do have to go downstairs and get the pork. The beef that we just bought yesterday is all, thawed and ready to go. But I do have to go get some ground pork to pop in the microwave and get that thawing so that I can use it during nap time at the very least, or at the very latest. So again, I think we're going to do a ziti and maybe a meatball, but it's going to be the same meat combo for both. Let's just go and get the sausage and we'll see. Okay, so I have about 4-ish pounds of sweet Italian sausage. This is the pork that we got from my parents this year. We did get 3 pegs, and we do this every year. I buy once a year from them, and that actually helps me budget-wise, which is really nice because then I have pork for the year. All right, come on. There we go. My goodness. Okay. 4 pounds in the microwave, get that defrosting. I'll check on it consistently, really. And yeah, let's get some pasta going. Okay, so it turns out I don't have any ziti to make baked ziti. However, pasta is pasta, and you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna take all of these pastas that I do have, because other than these shapes, I only have spaghetti or angel hair. So we're gonna take all of these, we're gonna cook them all at once. And yeah, these are all gonna go into our casserole dishes. And that is what it's like being a mama on a budget. You use what you have.
What's that?
Pastas.
Pastas?
Pastas. Okay, so the pasta is cooking, doing its thing. I've got about 4 pounds of pasta, so I'm going to need about 4 pounds of meat as well. I believe I actually have a little bit more than 4 pounds of meat, and that's okay because my husband and my brother-in-law are big meat eaters, so they are manly men and they need their meat. So we're gonna add a little bit more meat. So I've got about 2.5 pounds of the 80-20 beef, and I'm adding that to a Dutch oven with about 2 pounds of this sweet Italian sausage. So that's gonna add a lot of flavor right there. It's already, you know, pre-flavored. We're going to obviously add some seasonings as well. But this is a really nice, like, low and slow, very big batch meal. Really nice to be able to throw this together while my kids are somewhat entertained. So while this is cooking down, I'm going to start chopping some onions because we're going to need some onions. And I'm also going to start pulling the cans of tomatoes and tomato sauce. So this is going to be our sauce for our baked ziti. And then we are also going to add a cheese layer with ricotta, mozzarella, Parmesan, egg, and things like that. So I'm going to get this cooked up and then we'll start assembling. Okay, remember to wash your pans because, you know, dust and things in the warehouse, things like that can always find its way onto your pans. Make sure you're washing them before you use them. Now that everything has been chopped up and mixed in with this handy dandy meat masher, we'll give it some time to come together and finish cooking entirely. We're going to start adding in our sauce components because the sauce that we're making we are going to let sit and simmer for probably an hour or so just to let those flavors really marinate. You don't have to do it for that long, but I have the time, so putting it low and slow on the stove top just over a simmer is what I'm going to choose to do. So I'm starting off with these cans because they are ones that I just had in the pantry. I'm trying to use up some of these ingredients that I have. Whoops. It's one thing I love about cooking. Not so much baking, but cooking. You can really kind of go with the flow and make your own recipe as you go. So we're going to start with 3 cans of diced tomatoes, and this is going to go right into the Dutch oven with the liquid. Got a can of sauce to help loosen everything up, and we will definitely be adding more sauce. And then I've got a 6-ounce can of tomato paste, and I'm going to put the whole thing right in here. This is going to really help it develop a nice, rich flavor. That and seasoning each step of the way is really going to add a ton of flavor also. Turn this down. Actually, I'm going to turn it off while I get this all mixed together, just so it's not splattering at me. This all mixed in, and then I'm going to move it to my smaller burner. Get it over a simmer, maybe add in a little more sauce first. You know what, I'm going to add that entire jar in. It's going to be a very large pot, but we're making 4 of them, so good. And we're getting ingredients out of the pantry, out of the freezer, all while making this, so that's nice. So we'll be able to clear out some room for our Costco haul coming up in about a week, our once a month Costco haul. All right, push this back over my simmer burner. I'm gonna cover it just so it doesn't splatter everywhere. And we'll let this come up in temperature. All right, now we're gonna start the cheese portion. I've got 2 things of ricotta cheese. So let's see, 30 ounces in total. All right, 30 ounces. Okay, then I've got 8 ounces of Parmesan, and you can do whatever cut. This is shredded, just happened to be what I bought. And then I have this huge thing of mozzarella, 32 ounces in this, and it's farm or rustic cut. It's rustic cut, family size, 32 ounces. Ooh, this might be a little on the big side. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I've added most of that. I have about this much left. I'm gonna reserve this for the top of the casseroles. So now I'm just going to take my spoon. If you have gloves, I am out of gloves. Otherwise, I would be gloving up my hands and using my hands to mix this. Or if it's going just to your family, you could, of course, use nice clean hands to do that as well. I am going to try and keep all the germs out of these foods that I'm making, since there will be a brand new baby in the mix. Just try and keep everyone healthy, right? So we're just using a spoon, mixing it up as best we can. We're gonna make a mess, it's okay. This is going to get kind of chunky. You could also add a couple eggs. Our household, as you know, does not use eggs nearly as much as the common household. I won't say that we never use them, but due to the baby's allergies, we try not to have eggs around very often. Even making that tuna fish sandwich, have to be super careful about the mayonnaise in that. All right, we've got that mixed up, so that's looking pretty good. Pop that to the side. Ooh, this is a big pot. Okay, we're gonna give this a quick taste test before we add it to our casserole. All right, I'm gonna show you how to do one completely, and then I'm gonna speed through the rest of them because we've got more to go. So this is a nice big batch. So what I'm going to do is give a spoonful of this sauce over each part of the pan, making sure that pasta is completely coated in it. Probably would be a little easier with a ladle. Okay, so I'm doing that to make sure that there's enough. Okay, and now we can mix it all together here. All that sauce is also going to help to loosen up that pasta. It was kind of sludgy when we plopped it in, but the sauce will help to loosen it. Okay, just giving everything a quick toss. Get all that pasta nice and coated by the sauce, and if it looks like maybe we need a little bit more, which I think it does, we'll add some more. We've got plenty of it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop some dollops in here of this cheese mixture and give it kind of a quick swirl around. I want there to be some pockets of this cheese mix. I'm just going to use a butter knife and just kind of help tuck some of that cheese in there. If you don't like ricotta, or if your person doesn't like ricotta, you could also use cream cheese. You can even use a mixture of cream cheese and sour cream. My husband doesn't really care for ricotta, but in something like this, he won't really notice it. Okay, then I'm going to do a few more dollops, just so we give our top layer of cheese a little something to stick to. Now we're going to be very liberal with the cheese. These are nice thick cuts too, so you don't have to use as much when they are thicker cuts like this. I do have another bag of this, so if we run out of cheese for topping, no big deal. I can pull some from another one. I have this other bag of Parmesan also, so I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of that right on top. This one is all done. All we have to do is now cover it with foil, and usually you could, write on the top of it the instructions for cooking. I'm going to put foil on top, and then I'm going to put the plastic cover also on top of this, and I'm going to put a sticker that we're going to design later in Canva and that you can get in my shop over at mealplanningwithleftovers.com. You can print out those stickers on sticker paper and put them on top. That way nothing gets rubbed off, there's no holes, it's just so much easier, and it looks a little nicer when you're giving it to a friend or a family member. Okay, next recipe we're going to do is we're actually going to do some sloppy joes. I've got another about 2.5 pounds of meat here. We're going to start getting this browning, and then we're going to add in our seasonings. This is a really super and quick, easy recipe, and one that you can make a ton of. Okay, I'm also going to cut up some onion and pepper, a bell pepper. Doesn't matter what color, you can do whatever color you have. I have a ton of red bell peppers that I need to get used up, so that's what's going in here for mine. But just as it's cooking, that's all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna chop it up and add it in with the meat. So at the same time that the meat is cooking, the onions and pepper are going to cook as well. A little tip for you, the smaller you dice things like onions, peppers, even carrots or anything like that, the harder it is for your kids to notice that they're in there. A little bit of pepper and a bit of paprika. If you have smoked paprika, that would be delicious. Almost forgot the chili powder. We're going to add that in. About as much as paprika. There we go. Get that all mixed in. We're going to let this continue to cook until the vegetables have softened and the meat has cooked through. We want the meat to be completely cooked before we add in our remaining spice sauce ingredients that make this, an actual sloppy joe. We want it to be all cooked down first. That way we can just reduce it and let it thicken up after that. Okay, so we've got this cooked down. It's looking and smelling amazing. So we're going to add in the rest of our ingredients. Okay, I'm adding in a hefty tablespoon, more like 2 tablespoons, of minced garlic. We're going to do a couple shakes of Worcestershire. This is really what's going to give the sloppy joe its flavor. It's kind of stereotypical flavor. So I'm not shy on Worcestershire. This might actually end up being close to a quarter of a cup, I'd say. Yes, probably a quarter of a cup of Worcestershire. I'm going to add in about maybe 2 tablespoons of mustard. I use Dijon, you can use yellow mustard. We've got a 15-ounce can here of tomato sauce. So it's actually spaghetti sauce, but you can use tomato sauce, you can use diced tomatoes with the liquid, you can use whatever you have. You can even use tomato paste, and I've added chicken stock to that before. This is just to give it that nice rich tomato base. It's going to give it that lovely red color. We added some tomato paste to this. The red color would be much deeper. I'm going to let this simmer down though, and we'll see how this looks. I can always add tomato paste after and let it continue to cook, because this is another one of those recipes like the meat sauce we were doing earlier, where we can let this simmer on the stove for a bit. Okay, adding in about 1/8 of a cup of brown sugar. And remember, that's a quarter cup of brown sugar for, over 2 pounds of meat. So it's not like people are eating a quarter cup of brown sugar. I always feel weird about putting sugar in dinner dishes, but it has its place. You could also add in some liquid smoke, some chipotle peppers if you wanted to make this a little more like a Mexican sloppy joe, more of a smoky vibe. Okay, so this has been cooking for about 20 minutes, and I am going to add how much is this? 6-ounce can of tomato paste. I feel like it just really needs that richness. And where this is going to be a freezer meal, I want to make sure that it doesn't get watered down during the freezing and thawing process. So we're going to add, I know it might seem a little crazy to add an entire can of tomato paste, but remember, this is essentially a doubled recipe, being that we used about 2.5 pounds of meat. So we're getting all of that tomato paste we paid for out of the can. And now we're just going to stir it in and let it simmer for another 20 minutes or so. I have an IEP meeting for one of my kids in about 15 minutes. So I am just going to stir this, let it get to know each other, let it mingle for about another 20 minutes or so. I'm going to let it simmer the entire time I'm in my meeting for my kids. Or for one of my kids, and yeah, just let it go, and by the time I'm done with my meeting, this will be ready to take off of the stove, let it cool down, and then we can package it up. And this, we don't even have to use one of those pans for. This, once it's cooled down, can go right into a Ziploc bag and laid flat in the freezer, and then it can just freeze solid just like that, nice and flat, for easy storage in the freezer. I'm going to tidy up the kitchen in the meantime. Okay, the next recipe we are working on is a rice green chicken enchilada casserole, I guess is what we're going with. So over here on the stove, I've got Mexican rice going. It's a Goya. It's the one from the earlier shopping haul. It's a Mexican rice, so it's got a lot of flavor in it already. And then I'm going to take one of these packages of chicken breasts. I did ask her which they prefer, if they prefer chicken breasts or chicken thighs. She said they prefer chicken breasts. So I have, let's see here, just over 5 pounds, 5.3 pounds. And so I'm going to pop this in the Instant Pot. So my goal is to get it shreddable. And I'm going to mix it with, I'm actually going to cook it in the Instant Pot with those 2 jars of Salsa Verde. And like not put any other liquid in there. All the liquid, the juices from the chicken, that's all going to be sufficient for what the Instant Pot needs as far as its the way that it needs to cook. So we're going to get that going. And that is going to be a really simple dish. We'll put some cheese on top. Depending on how it looks, I might even mix in some cream cheese so that then it becomes kind of this creamy salsa verde on top of rice. We'll sprinkle some more cheese on top and then they would bake it and it would become this like ooey gooey cheesy enchilada casserole. Let's see how things look as we make it. Okay, here's a better look at our chicken with the salsa verde. That's all that's in here. It's going to add a ton of flavor. I was looking for the cover. We're going to pressure cook this. I'm going to do 25 minutes to start. I'm going to do it on high. And we are going to let it naturally release for a little bit, just as I work on some other dishes. This next one that I'm working on is a recipe I found online, and I'll be sure to leave the link to it in the description below for you. I am tweaking it kind of substantially just because I want to make this into a freezer meal that's not cooked yet. So this is one that we can prepare while these other ones are cooking. So this is a Greek sheet pan dinner. So I've already got some red onion. I have 4 red onion. I have 3 bell peppers. Again, color doesn't matter. I might add some more because I have more, and more veggies is always good, especially for a recovering mama. So I have, this is really inconvenient. Ooh, like sticker things on zucchini. This is, whose idea? Whose idea was this? I would like to have some words. Okay, we're going to take all the stickers off of our zucchini and give them a little rinse. And then we're going to chop up the zucchini. I just have a sheet pan in front of me where every time I'm cutting up some vegetables, because I've been doing this just as I'm waiting and working on other things, I'm putting those chopped vegetables for this recipe on that sheet pan so that in a few moments we will be ready to go, because all we have to do is assemble the bags of this marinade and these items that we're going to be marinating. So I just had to take a look at what the recipe calls for. So I'm going to trim off the ends of these zucchini, and then we're going to cut lengthwise and then chop it from there. So essentially we're looking for half moon shapes. Okay, so we've got our zucchini here. You can do a mixture of zucchini, squash, like yellow squash. You could do butternut squash with this too. You could really do any kind of a squash. This is a really great, easy sheet pan dinner. And if you cut harder squashes, such as butternut, if you cut that into little cubes, they'll cook pretty quickly with chicken on a sheet pan. So not a big deal there. Just goes back to how big you cut them. If you cut harder, if you cut squash that take longer to cook, if you cut them smaller, and then vice versa, if you take a squash that takes less time to cook, cut it a bit bigger. Okay, so I have 6 chicken breasts here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to fillet the chicken breast, and I'm going to put the equivalent of 2 in each bag, but they're going to get 4 cutlets essentially. And I think that will help as far as how they cook sheet pan wise. Like this will turn out to be a really quick dinner, which when you're dealing with a newborn and lack of sleep, that's what we want, right? So I am just inverting these inside out, folding about halfway down, just so I can place the chicken in there a little bit easier. That was our rice. So the rice for the next casserole is done, and I'm not doing anything with that. I'm just gonna let it sit there. It's good. I've already turned the heat off. Not bothering to wash this cutting board because this is the last thing I'll be doing on it. We've already done the vegetables. So you just want to take your knife, gently push it through the middle, consistently pulling back on the breast. Just like that. We have 2 breasts. Those are both going to go right in there. Okay, now that I've got all the chicken in their bags, I'm going to start making the marinade. I think I'm just going to do it one at a time so that I follow the recipe pretty much exactly. So we've got a 1/2 cup of olive oil. And then I'm going to do about a 1/4 cup of lemon juice. We're going to add in my kind of a tablespoon of garlic, which is like taking an actual spoon for the table and putting in a big hunk of it. All right, next we need to add in oregano. This calls for 2 teaspoons. Give it a good shake in there. Then dried thyme. This calls for 1 teaspoon of dried thyme. Then I'm also going to add in some dill just to brighten it up a little bit. That dill and the lemon, nothing says Greek flavors to me like dill, lemon, and olives. This is going to be really good. I can almost guarantee it. A little bit jealous. Okay, so now we've got, it says teaspoon of Dijon. That's probably more like 2 teaspoons. A little bit of salt, teaspoon of salt, and a 1/2 teaspoon of pepper. Whoa, that was way more than 1 teaspoon. You know, I really don't want to risk that being too salty. So I'm going to make the same thing right in here 2 more times. I am making a mess. And then we'll just pour straight from this into the bags. Okay, we've got that all mixed up. We're going to separate it in between. Have that pretty well separated. I was going to do veggies and chicken in separate bags, but I think I'm going to put them all in the same bag just so that we can get that marinade all over the veggies too. So I'm just going to separate it by the handful and tidy up at the same time. This isn't a super science, doesn't have to be perfect. These are looking and smelling great already. And I know someone's gonna ask, yes, I have those little stands that I could use to hold the bags. I find they don't really work. I bought a whole bunch and used them maybe twice. Just not super thrilled. Things kept falling over. Lots of spills. Just wasn't worth it. I think I got more zucchini than what I really needed. But that's okay. I can make a side dish with that just for our family. Oh, maybe not. Looks like maybe I'll have enough for a snack. Lastly, I'm going to add some cherry tomatoes on top. I'm going to look through them and put all the good ones in there. Okay, and I have this jar of olives, and I'm actually going to separate this into some little plastic cups. This, along with the feta cheese, will be given to them with this so that they can add it on for the last few minutes. It's not something that you want to cook at the same time with all of the other things. So this will be divided into 3 and just packaged along with it. And we have 3 more meals ready to go for my sister-in-law. Remember to squeeze out all that air as much as you can. Smush it all around also without bursting those tomatoes, just so that while it's marinating, while it's sitting there spending all of its time together in the bag, those vegetables have an opportunity to get marinated along with the chicken. Alright, so I've smushed it around. I'm actually going to set it upside down on the sheet pan for right now to let more of that marinade come down. And we're going to continue on with these other ones. Alright, let's get this last one finished up so I can get this kitchen cleaned up. We're gonna end it here today with our green chicken chili casserole thing going on, okay? So I was able to split the rice up into 2. I'm going to split now the chicken. I did add 2 blocks of cream cheese to that Instant Pot. Got that all melted. That'll help to kind of thicken it up and to kind of cool it down just a little bit. Alright, we're just going to spread this out, cover all of that rice. It's okay if there's still a little couple blobs of cream cheese. Those will melt the next time it bakes, not a big deal. And all this liquid is kind of going down into the rice. That's fine too. Flavor, flavor, flavor. I know it doesn't look the greatest, okay? I get it. This does not look overly appetizing, but I promise you this is gonna taste so stinking good. No doubt this is the one that I'm gonna hear rave reviews about, and it was the easiest. Now let's get this topped with cheese. Now we can get these covered with tin foil, lids popped on, and these are 2 more ready to go. Alright, here's a quick look at all we got done today on day 1. So we've got over a week's worth of food, let's be real. For 2 adults, this is probably more like 2 weeks worth if you're going to be eating leftovers. But like I said, I know that they're going to have people there helping them, so I want to make sure that they don't have to think about that either. But this is it for day 1. I'm going to head downstairs and make the labels for those. You guys can join me over there. Okay, so one thing I love to do is I love making my own stickers and labels for my food, and especially for food that I'm giving to loved ones, or, you know, sometimes even just for myself, because it looks cute, it lasts longer, I can put the right information on it. And for my family, where we have allergies and pretty severe allergies at that, it's really important that things are labeled properly and that they last, especially in the freezer or if they get wet, things like that. And I can't always trust the tin foil, like, you know, writing Sharpie on tin foil or on plastic bags. You can't always trust it. But I have yet to have one of my labels fail me. This is just day 1 of making these recipes for my sister-in-law. We are going to have part 2 coming up. My back just cannot take any more today. But if you want all the recipes from today's video and tomorrow's video, and maybe if there's a part 3, all the recipes that are in this series of Baking for Baby, those will be available for purchase as part of a meal plan on mealplanningwithleftovers.com. And you can also find more delicious and easy budget-friendly recipes over at fortheloveofleftovers.com, where all the recipes there are free. All right, let's dig into Canva, and I'm going to show you what we got going on. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button if you are into this kind of thing where we're making big batch meals, regular dinners, feeding my family of 8, and sometimes other families as well. I hope you got inspired and got encouraged to see exactly what you could do in preparing for maybe a month of meals for your own and how much you can really get done in a day. Be sure to follow along because we've got part 2 and possibly part 3 coming at you depending on when this baby shows up. But we are going to get some more recipes done in following videos. So stay tuned and I'll see you in the next one. It'll be right here. Bye.